or I could move it back to 16. Like I said, there's a couple, 2 half-day. So it just depends on, if we could move it back and then we'd add 2 more down here. You know, I'm just giving you a scenario of, you know, what it might look like. As of today, like I said, 24 hours from today, this could be.
We have to decide on this now.
Yeah.
But you wanted to cap that traditional at 18, right, Sue?
I would like to, because I think that's kind of the point. Or, you know, they still have to teach. One thing about it, that they aren't teaching preschool, they're teaching kindergarten, because we get kindergarten money for them. It's a 1.0, just like a 5th grader or anybody. So I think, you know, it's just teaching the kindergarten skills, and, you know, you keep just plugging away at that. So, yeah. The most I'd want in there is 18, I think, is, you know, because that's the point of it. You know.
And shouldn't kindergarten be a little easier since we have the preschool program now?
It should. We should.
I mean,
yep.
Should help somewhat.
Well, we assess on target skills, so I think that makes it. Yes, it should be. But you know, the bar is up. Even we got our new benchmarks for the fall here, and they've raised the benchmarks on, you know, like some of our testing here, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you know, so, or not 4th. And so, you know, the bar keeps going up. And, you know, expectation, this doesn't look like your kindergarten of 15 years ago, so.
I definitely feel like we need to at least add the kindergarten, the AYP showed us that we need to get on hitting these kids in the younger ages where they need it the most.
And I might just make a comment about 2nd grade, because now next year, this is the first group to go through that early literacy and implementation. So we're identifying them, and that's the possible retention. They have to go to summer school not to be retained if they're, you know, so we want to get as many of them up to speed, you know, and it's an important grade, and we've got some work to do in that class, to be perfectly honest. So
that was the class that was very large to begin with,
yeah,
and had many challenges.
Right, and it's just one that we're gonna, and I think we can do it. We're tightening up a PD, our professional development, but you know, we just want to. I mean, it's about the kids. I think it's not about the adults on any of these grades.
These numbers on here, Sue, right now, is that where we're at today?
That as of 4:30.
Okay.
So I take it the 1st grade is no concern?
Well, you know, we've got to draw the line. I mean, you know, I would say the other 2 grades probably, if you, 2 would be good. 2 teachers would probably help us out. Actually, our 1st grade is actually in pretty good shape this year, coming from kindergarten. So even though they look like they're a little bit bigger class sizes.
What would you figure the average spend is going to be to add a teacher?
50?
60, 50, 65?
Depends whether they're on single health insurance or annual. $10,000 difference.
The minimum of 50, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd say time of year, yeah, everything, like divers. Single health insurance, you're looking at 50, 55,000.
I'd love to add 3, but I mean, it's like, I feel 2 are very necessary. I don't know that we've got the funds to do the 3rd. I kind of echo what Jen said about the AYP's goals and targets, and I think that's one of the things that classroom size is so critical to these young ages.
Do we have room to add
We do.
with the walls?
Yeah, with the walls.
Do we have empty classrooms?
We have, actually, yes, we do have 2 empty classrooms right now, and we could, for 2 and possibly, it wouldn't be that difficult to add a 3rd one, but like I said, I'm okay with 2 myself. Personally, I feel like if the board takes that step, that's a big step for us. But we actually have the room.
It'll be the same next year.
was a push every year. And
Is this number gonna be the same next year?
Well, that's a good question. I did a little bit of work on that. This year, if you pull out your yellow sheet, your budget report, and we'll just look at the general fund. We actually finished the year much better than what we thought we were going to be. But you can see that we still finished in a deficit position of about 300,000. Okay, so if you take your 300,000 that we have this year, and let's say you add the new money that we got from the state for next year, that's 236,000. You're still down 64,000. Then I calculated an estimate on what the cost for your increased salaries and benefits. And here's how I did that. I know what our current expenditures were for this year, 200,000. The last CAR we did, 81.5% of our expenditures go to salaries and benefits. So I took that, which is 14,018,000. And then if you take that times, I took an estimate of 3.6%. I think the teachers settled for 3.75. The classified were 3.5%. Administrators were what, 3? So I just kind of guessed at 3.6. That would be a round number of 500,000 more in expenses for salaries.
For adding,
You're
Two
adding for
teachers?
this year.
No, adding no teachers.
adding no teachers.
That's no
correct?
teacher. We're on to the teachers.
Yeah.
And then your other expenses, which would include, we didn't have much for equipment, but supplies and purchase services, if you increase that number by 3%, that's about 75,000. And then your AEA costs that we have to pay to them went up about 23,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of what your increase in costs will be over the current year. So, like Laverne mentioned earlier, what's killing us is when they give you 1.25% new money, it doesn't cover hardly anything.
So we're 660,000 short going into next year.
Yeah. Now, you've got your instructional support coming online, but I certainly don't think you want to spend all that up front, because if they continue to give us 1.25%, it's going to be a spiral, because it's not covering the increase in cost that we're having.
So without adding any teachers, you're predicting that we'll be short 660,000.
Yeah, if you didn't have instructional support.
Right, because that'll be,
Yeah.
but it comes at different times.
Yep.
And last year we went in, well, we predicted 900, we went in 700.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, we did amazingly well this year. I think both Rob and I were surprised. I thought we would finish worse than that, but our supply purchases were down quite a bit this year. That helped a lot. And just everything was tighter. And so I was pretty happy when I saw where we finished there.
What about, Gary, the teachers that we moved over to the TLC? And the positions we didn't replace?
Yeah, see, now I didn't calculate all that in, because to be honest with you, I'm still working on last year's stuff, and so I'm a little confused on how that's all going to work, and so I haven't really started calculating all those costs yet, and the revenues on the other side too.
There was only one position that you didn't fill,
Just that one high school?
the industrial, or the technology coach. Integrations position you didn't fill. Kelly Schultz's position was not filled. She moved into the TLC, but into instructional coach position.
What about any positions we didn't fill with people that left the district?
Derek Troutman's position was not filled.
No, no.
Did you replace them with lower teachers though?
Lower paid, yeah, most cases. The ones that moved into the TLC position, you either have an option of paying your replacement people out of TLC or the people that you move into TLC positions. Well, the people that were in TLC positions were higher salaried than the ones that we hired, so those are the ones who moved into TLC. But that's not a huge amount. I mean, if you could save 20,000, that's pretty good.
Your retirement thing, you might pick up 100,000.
But that's not until next fiscal.
That'd be the fall.
Following fiscal, it's not until
Was
fiscal.
the TLC money next year in the formula?
Yes, it rolls into the formula. This year, we received it all at once. We already received the money, 500 and some thousand.
Next year's in the formula.
Correct. But it's categorical, I mean, you can't spend it on anything else other than that, so.
So it's the same, kind of same scenario.
Correct. The board doesn't have to answer this question tonight, but one question that I would encourage the board to think about as you move down this path, and that is where do you want the district to be financially? Where do you want that solvency ratio? What do you want for an unspent balance? What do you want for cash on hand? You know, when you can answer those questions, then it becomes a little bit more palatable to answer the question of if we add and how many.
But if you added these and you gave you're gonna go negative, you're gonna go into your cash reserve to sustain it, but you can't sustain it.
That's
I mean, you can do this for a year or two, but you can't sustain that, because your cash reserve will run out.
Not with the current state funding, the way it is.
Well, exactly.
It's just,
the
That-
financial
that
climate
outcome
we're
doesn't-
in, it's not sustainable in the financial climate we're in right now.
No.
And I can promise you, that's not gonna change for another 3 years.
Explain that. Why 3 years?
Because the governor isn't up for election till then.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
and see, even
He's
if,
already recommended, 2.45 next year. I think that's on the high end.
And the TLC's gonna stay. As long as
And
it's-
even if you would dump in a bunch more money into TLC, what Rob's saying, that doesn't help us.
No,
Because it
no.
has to go to TLC.
Categorical.
That's a category. And I don't know if he understands that we're starving in the general instruction area. So, and it's not just us, other schools are in the same situation.
So for the shortfall, are you also counting the ISL money, Jerry, that we'll be getting next year?
no, this doesn't take into account that million that would come in for ISL. I didn't even take that into account. I just kind of wanted to show you what your increase in costs would be over the next year. I didn't look on the revenue side. So that, yeah, that's, I mean, that would be available.
You're gonna receive less than $400,000.
Right, it won't all come.
For this, until taxes, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, until
Until
income
they- yeah,
tax.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you still have another increase next year, so,
400.
so that's $1 million.
I mean,
But yep, but you're already running deficit.
Right,
I mean, you only spend it once.
right. Well, here's 600, next year's 400, or a million. Boom, gone.
I think if your question was, can we afford 2 or 3 teachers for next year?
Yes.
Yes. Can we sustain it? That is where we have more of a discussion.
Well, when you look at, if you look at the numbers, I don't know, like from kindergarten, 127, and we go 137 first grade, 147 second grade. If we stay at near 127, 130, you're not gonna need 7 teachers next year in first grade. You're gonna be back down to the 6, unless you pick up another 10, 12 kids. So if the numbers stay like in kindergarten, I mean, you're gonna have one less there. I mean, but I understand that we're kind of got a flux of a lot of kids in these 2 grades, where numbers are a little high. Once they get moved up, like these second graders jump up into 3rd grade, those numbers are probably, we're gonna go back probably to stay at 6. And we're 6 there. Is that right? We have 6 teachers in 3rd grade now, right? Probably gonna have that's gonna be a kind of a bubble going through there with higher numbers.
Well, that's.
And I mean, anyway, I hope the numbers are that high, because that means there's more funding.
It's a good problem to have.
We've had that problem where you have to shift teachers.
Yeah, so I mean, I look at that 127 kindergartners, I'm like, okay, is that number gonna drop down a little bit? You're not gonna need as many teachers. You're gonna drop back a class on them in your first grade and second grade, if they stay at that number.
How many TAs are in second grade?
But really, taxing teachers, we get 3 or 4 more kids coming into second grade this year. We have 26.
What you do is just, you gotta go see it. Because tonight we gotta make a decision.
Because it can go either
Do you
way.
have it, Tanya? I got it right here. 1, 2, 3.
It's a tough.
Special ed.
Very tough call.
Okay.
So they'll be handling 1 in the class or 2 in the class?
Keep
Depends
granted.
on
what
the
do you think?
class.
Right. But they could be, you know, 1 or 2
These are
or
the
just
same
1.
discussions we had.
1 and 4, yeah, it looks like there's
In
4
one
and
class.
1,
Because
1
they
or
were
3
in
in
bubble
another
class.
class, there's 3,
So is-
one class, there's 1. And that student may be
Basically
out of
the
the
same problem.
gen ed
Yeah.
classroom for
Michael,
a lot of his
we had
day,
huge,
or her
And
days,
then
or her day.
kindergarten, like, let's say these classes of 22, is there 1 or 2 kids per TA?
And we're sharing a TA between 2 classrooms. There are 6 children between those 2 classrooms, 6 special education students. One classroom has 4. The transitional has 1 student that goes all day and another student that goes half day. And then there's a classroom with 1 special education student for the teacher assistant.
Here, what was the negative last year?
So your pops are down about 20
800.
students.
Yeah, we had dropped it. We're way back.
700?
Right below.
You really can't
690.
say that they're
We're
working
gonna
on
add on
that
to that
because,
basically for a 2-year.
you know, with the IEP, that's basically a law that they have
No, I
to do with
understand
that
that.
student. They
That's
can't.
130. That's 1.39.
Yeah, but other
Forget we're not adding something.
Yeah,
TA's
no,
taking
but
care of
still.
It's gonna soften that.
Cost.
In
Yeah.
2 years, you drop 1.3, you're gonna bring it back up 1, so you're still 300 down.
right?
Ultimately, it's
sometimes.
the teacher who's responsible for
Right.
the instruction. The TA can provide practice,
Right.
but the teacher is still responsible for the student.
One thing to keep in mind is it's not a quick fix now, but that's why I was talking about this on how many allow for early retirement. That's one avenue down the road. That's not right now, but that's down the road. They may help you recoup some of your losses going forward. And once again, like I said, you know, we're not trying to force the older teachers out by any means, but this is one tool to help take care of this problem down the road. And then I talked about with, you know, and Sue said with our teacher leadership now, we have tools to, for our new people coming in, I'm not saying they're all gonna be new, but for the new people coming in, we can help them get a quick jump start the way they go. So we're not shortchanging our kids by any means, by having a younger teaching staff, I'm just gonna call it that. It's not guaranteeing they're all gonna be first year, so you just don't know.
So Sue, you're in the building, what do you see that would make, would be the best for the kids? What would you hope for?
Well, more individualized instruction, more meeting their needs. I mean, I think that's our, you know, that's what we want, is everybody growing. And when we say all kids, we mean all kids. And I just think that, you know, and I'm still gonna pull in a little bit of the plug for that second grade. And I can see getting a good start in kindergarten was a good start in kindergarten. But, you know, we've got this new law, and I just really want, I think we can do it, but it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a team effort, you know. So, but, you know, I can, whatever you decide, I mean, you're the people in charge here. So,
Thanks.
Well, I think we've basically settled on second grade, we need one for sure. Is that what I'm hearing?
well,
Kindergarten, we're talking about for sure.
Kindergarten?
Well, it looks to me like you need one in second grade worse than, but the next thing is, where do you wanna be with your money?
Bingo, yeah, makes it tough. You can see the need for the kids, but then you can see the longevity of it is a problem.
You know, I wish the money was there and have one for every grade.
Yeah.
Real simple. But we have to be good stewards of our taxpayer monies too. And like Mr. Cordes says, where do you want the district to be financially? And spending reserves, that's a one-time shot.
Rob, any input you wanna give us?
I'm giving you mine.
Give you one last chance.
I'll echo what Gary said.
Yeah.
You can do about anything for a year.
So Gary.
You had one, you had two. Don't sit here next year at this time and ask Gary what the heck happened to our money. Why are we in a situation where we may have to reduce that?
So Gary, if we hire two this year, and let's say next year we have, pick a number, 9 early retirements. What will that do for us?
It's gonna exhaust the other fund a little bit.
As far as the funding
Funding.
savings.
So
Savings.
Go back and recoup that.
Management.
It kind of
You can
depends on
recoup that.
who they are,
I know,
you know. You obviously, you save more money the further the spread is between the current teacher and the new teacher. And that depends on what lane they're in, and then of course what step they're on. And then also, you know, where you hire that new one at. I would say, and I'm not an expert on this, Rob, the principals know a lot more, but when you get into the upper grades, if that's where most of your early retirements are, you probably don't save quite as much money, because it's really hard to find some of those folks. But yeah, this will be a tough year, and we kind of knew that. Part of it is because we didn't offer early retirement, and that's fine. That was planned.
Yeah.
And that will kind of reverse itself next year, because you'll have more demand next year for early retirement than what you would have had this year had you offered. So,
Right.
So it was kindergarten and first grade last year,
Kindergarten was quite a bit bigger.
last year.
Were they 24, 25?
Yeah, they were about
26?
24, 25 because in the last couple of years, that's been a big, we've had a lot of move-ins with that group
So
too.
we went downhill to first grade.
Well, you had a few retentions, we had some of those, so. But we just got 3 today, so it's not, it's always kind of precarious like at this time.
So we had just as many last year,
In first grade?
kindergarten.
No, we had more last year in kindergarten.
In first grade,
But we didn't retain as many this year, so.
First grade was huge because it's that second grade class.
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
there, yeah.
but I was wondering if that was the same number or not.
Second grade was smaller because that would be around 22, 23 in a class last year. First grade is smaller, now, I mean, second grade's bigger now, but first grade was bigger last year. And then kindergarten is just the way it is, so.
Well, I think the big thing in kindergarten was just adding a transitional designation, which we did not have last year, to help kids that just are just not quite ready to take on that. And if those standards keep being pushed and raised even down there, or expectations, I see a stronger need for that transitional class. Because the problem you get a kid that doesn't get through that, struggles through that, and all of a sudden they walk in first day in first grade, and they're struggling a little bit there, so.
And that's in that 18 or 16 class, right?
Yeah.
And there's,
Those are just ones that preschool helped us identify.
right,
them.
and there's
Talk to the parents.
two special ones in there, and they're half days.
One is a full day and one's a half day. And then there's a gen ed that's a half day.
I think as we move forward, just to Rob's comments about the solvency ratios and that, I think that's probably more board discussion, board retreat to really define some of those goals where we want to be at. I know we've looked at them before. I'm kind of leaning, what I'd like to see is probably do a kindergarten and a second grade, because I think that's probably the 2 highest needs. I think there's a need for first, but I think that's pushing the envelope too hard. And I know even with Gary's discussions on increasing in cost and that, we're not seeing some of the revenues come in. Obviously, with the ISL, they're getting more monies there, what the early retirement's gonna do. We're gonna have some things gonna soften that and make it not seem quite like it's as hard of a blow there, although I do expect it's definitely gotta be concerned, but we're kind of shooting blind on this thing a little bit. And obviously the supplemental state aid from the state and what they do next year, but I would agree that probably we're gonna see it in that, like this year, 1.25, we need to plan probably accordingly, something that's not very aggressive. So I don't know what how the rest of the board feels, but it's tough. It is, it's a tough decision. I hate to see, man, I don't wanna lay off some people next year either. I'm hoping that I just can't believe adding 2 teachers would put us in such a financial crunch next year with some early retirements coming in, plus more additional ISL funds coming in. And we reduced a lot of cost. I know I see it just in the online, the lack of that paper printing, those supplies. I think that's part of that, which has reduced some of those costs. And some will
I
continue
don't know,
to do
I
that.
thought we just cut that paper printing the other year, and we didn't cut it much, did we?
We cut it a little, but about, I think 10%, something like
So.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
No, that's kind of where and it's probably a bit of a stretch to guarantee we should do 1, but,
If you
it's
go,
just where you guys are at.
if you go with the 2, my suggestion is, or ideas would be, so we don't have to pink slip anybody down the road, is if you get X number of people that come in for early retirement this year, I think you better honor it. would you rather take an early retirement this year, or would you have Mr. Cordes walk into someone's room next April and hand them a slip? Now, I'm not saying that's gonna fix the whole problem, I'm not trying to tell Gary that, but that's gonna help soften your blow.
Well, that's something that we can, better evaluate as we get closer to the deadline of the early retirement and where we're at financially with Gary too.
But, and I think you'll know your first day, how many are gonna be at the door. The ones that are really, they'll be here.
I'm with you, Dwayne, I really think that we need to do the kindergarten for sure and the second grade. I would like to do all three, but, definitely the kindergarten and the second grade, being that it's that key grade that, we need to make sure that they're meeting the reading expectations and giving them the extra help that they need. I know it was a struggle last year for the first grade teachers.
Well, it was new. I mean, it's, once you started putting that designation on there, then you were, but now we know the targets and we know the, kind of the rules of the game. So we start reading on the first day of school, we start practicing and learning, and so, yeah.
Laverne?
Well, we always talk as what's best for the kids. Longevity, this is not a good decision, but listening to Sue, what would be best for the kids this year is to add a kindergarten and a first or second grade. And then I guess, you know, what do you do next year? I don't know, but then it's not best for the kids then. That's the problem.
Danny?
Well, if we had, that many kids in kindergarten last year, should be able to run that again. I don't like the 660,000 we're looking at next year. Our early retirement will compensate for the teachers this year, but you're still 660,000 short.
You get some ISL money.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not, yeah, there's fun, you didn't include increases in funding that are coming in too, so it's not.
And that was the
It's
one common denominator that we had with the ISL, with people saying, especially in those younger grades, their class sizes, that they wanted to see that reduced. I know that the ISL, if we didn't have the ISL, we would have been looking at a lot of different scenarios of laying people off. I mean, it would be horrible, and class size is 35 plus, but, you know, that the one true thing that we heard the whole time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dwayne, is that the kindergarten classes were too big. That was the one thing that we heard, was specifically the kindergarten classes were too big at that 24. And when I went in to visit those teachers, they did one heck of a job. They just had too many kids in those classes to give
Well,
them what they
I just
needed.
feel like it's one of those things that you get by with large classes a year or two.
Right.
But you start compounding that, first grade, second grade, kindergarten, you know, started with kindergarten and then a large first and second, and we said, there's kids that are just getting so far behind, how are we ever gonna get caught up? And that's, like I said, I don't like it either, and as far as that we're gonna maybe run some deficit looking ahead into next year's budgets and that, but again, we're only looking at half of that equation, knowing where we're truly at, because we haven't figured exactly where the extra funding coming in is gonna be until we see the early retirements. If we need to move off of 6, we look at the numbers and need to do that, yeah, maybe we'll do that. I just don't like seeing kids, I know they get behind the struggle, they're gonna struggle all the way through it. It's more resources and dollars and extra aids to get those kids brought up in summer school. These early years, I feel, are so critical to get these kids off to a good start. So I'm willing to kind of roll with this thing for this year, I guess, or into this next year, and hopefully we can get this funding to keep pressuring our state legislators.
Well, this is a great problem to have. I mean, not the money's part, but the kids. At least we're not here trying to figure out who we're gonna get rid of because we don't have the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we're one of the fortunate districts that, you know, have this issue, so I have no problem with the 2 teachers. for the second and kindergarten, not a problem at all. But we're gonna have to be awfully careful what we do moving forward. And we do have some options to take advantage, and Gary's gonna have to sharpen his pencil a little bit better, but he can get that done, but, him and Rob are doing the best they can for the situation we have, but, like they said, please, you know, down the road, if some other expenses go up, you know, you're gonna have to work with them. We're gonna have to work with them because this is our decision, the board's decision to hire these two people. So, I have no problem with it.
So do you want me to put a motion through?
If there's no more discussion, we just as well move forward. Laverne, anything else?
No.
Danny?
No.
Dwayne?
No, good.
Jen? Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the hiring of a second and grade teacher and a kindergarten teacher for next school year.
I'll second it.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Okay, budget reports?
Nope, it's,
Oh.
Oh, we've got a couple bids there in your packet.
Demo people?
Yeah. Let's start with the milk bid.
We got that here.
Yeah, should be in your folder.
This one.
Yes. Yep.
One is sitting all right.
Trying to, you know, our lunch prices have been going up, what, the last 4 or 5 years, and they'll continue for the next several years because of this federal mandate. I would rather serve the better product and go that route and have happier kids.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the only way to.
Yeah.
Well, to go along with that, Gary, these Bimble's local. You know, they're right here in town. If our ladies run short, they run down to Bimble.
Yeah, they've been a good company.
They've been a good company.
Our only complaint is the fact that there wasn't much competition, and the prices have been going up. But it's also true that the quality of the product is pretty important as well. You know,
Well, it's fresh every night.
yeah,
They're in town every night with the truck, so.
we're trying to get the freshest product we can. You know, fruits and vegetables. You know, we're trying to get more of that into the lunch program. So it's her recommendation that we stick with Bimbo Bakery. It's not really pronounced Bimbo, I can't remember.
That's the way the guy told me.
Is that what he
Yeah,
said?
that's what he told me.
Okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
But again, we will bid this again next year. We only do 1-year bids on these. And maybe the product will be different next year as well, so. But those are the two bids that I had, milk and bacon.
Anybody have any problems with these two? I think we need to stay local and go with Sarah's recommendation.
you want the kids to eat.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you're stuck with it for a year if you have a bad product, so we don't wanna go down that road, so. All right, I need a motion on the two bids, please.
Make a motion to take Anderson Erickson, right, with Anderson and Bimble.
I'll second it.
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Okay, capital outlay. New pickup.
You have, Transportation Committee met, we did look at some bids that had used pickups, and the committee decided that maybe we should check some bids out for a new pickup. We have received 3 bids, one from Motor Inn, one from Whitrock Motors, and one from Champion Ford. And the low bid was $24,338 from Champion. And that's what we would, it's a pretty plain pickup, but that's what we wanted. It's used to pull trailers, move snow, et cetera. And so, our recommendation is to purchase the new pickup from Champion Ford.
Wasn't your used pickup, we looked at pretty close to it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like after you see these numbers, it's
Yeah.
like, it's a no-brainer. You got a warranty year, you got a brand
Within,
new thing, and,
within, what, 3,000 or 4,000?
That's why I told,
Yeah.
This
told
is
Robin,
7 years newer.
yeah.
You
You
could-
could end up getting 16.
you can price some plain Jane pickups, that's why I told him, I
Yeah.
said, let's go to the new, and this definitely paid off.
Well, I think in a new vehicle, they get a government price too.
Oh, yeah, you can see the discounts there,
Yeah.
yeah.
After you see these, it's like, plus you got a full warranty,
Yeah, I mean, it's a new
Yeah.
pickup, so.
and breakdowns come out of general fund.
Sure.
And our old one was new.
When they got it.
when
We got it, yeah.
BR.
Yep.
That's a long time.
It's old. That used to be what Tom.
It had more miles than I thought I had it on it too, as quite a
Yeah, it's got a lot.
more miles than I thought.
6 digits.
Yeah. Turk White drove it around, and Tom, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer.
That's what they check roads with, so. Okay, I'll need a motion then, please.
I will say though, it was good that Tom brought that idea to us, you know, because you never know until you see those used prices and stuff like that, to know if
Mhm.
you're doing right or wrong, so.
Sure.
It was good to know that.
Anyone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go with the Champion Ford pickup.
For 24,000.
24,338.
338.
Laverne?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Dan?
Yep.
Okay, moving on to storage cabinets for 8 classrooms at Fairview.
You have a drawing of those in your packet, and the result. This is a result of the walls being put in between. When there was a portable wall, there were 2 cabinets butted up against each other. That one for each classroom, and then when the wall came in there, they wouldn't fit in there together anymore, so they were moved to a different part of the room. But now you have this gap that's half unpainted cement block and half wallpaper, and so we have to do something, either re-wallpaper the whole thing or put in some type of a storage unit. And Jeff just thought a storage unit would be a nice place for one, and it will cover up, I guess, the eyesore if nothing else. But I'll tell you, most elementary teachers will be able to fill the storage space up quite easily. But Bading's worked with the supplier, and for the 8 classroom cabinets, that would be $9,498. And so we would recommend that we move forward with those.
Is that one section supposed to be cubbies that they'll have?
Pretty much.
They're not doors, they're just open
Correct.
storage.
Is this gonna be paid out of the bond issue money or side of it?
Same thing.
Eventually it will be.
Any other questions for Mr. Cordes? Now I'll need a motion, please.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the cabinets. The storage cabinets for the 8 classrooms at Fairview Elementary for $9,498. Sorry.
Kim?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Laverne?
Yes.
Okay, then we also have tack boards for Fairview.
One thing we did
Always-
not put in the contract or in the specs is to put tack boards or bulletin boards in the corridors, hallways at Fairview, and so we'd like to place some of those in the hallways. I forgot the number. Does it say on there? No. I'm not sure how many that is, but the price came to $5,136. And I think those are 4x8.
Oh, so that's the
We just don't,
difference between the
yeah,
4
if
by
you
6.
went with a 4x6, you deduct 725, but, it just prevents teachers having to tape things to the walls and tack things to the walls and things like that, and so, that's why we like the bulletin boards.
So these are one in the hallways.
Yes.
Better get on up soon.
So I would assume there'd be at least one for every classroom.
Well, I think, in some places, there's one in between two classrooms, in a couple places.
You're not sure how many.
He told me and I don't remember.
What's your best guess?
Well, I wanna say there were 10 or 12, but
When will these begin?
that's a good question, I'm not sure. It's doubtful they'll be up before school starts. Unless they can get them shipped immediately, but the cabinets will not be for
I
sure,
wouldn't bet that one.
but I don't think the tack boards will be.
Any questions about that? Concerns? Okay, not on the motion, please.
I'll move to approve the quarter attack boards, bid completed construction for $5,136.
Jen?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Laverne?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes. Okay, now on to the budget reports.
Here, you wanna go over yours first, or?
Okay, it's the yellow one. We've kind of gone through the general fund. Activity fund, you can see that continues to be somewhat of a problem. I mean, our expenditures are exceeding our revenues, and it's going to be about, a little over 28,000 this year. Management fund, we're in good shape there. Local option sales tax, that's pretty deceiving, because on the revenue side, that's only showing your revenues from this year. And when you sold those bonds, that showed the prior year. So your expenses are obviously going to be more than what your revenues were, but remember, you have quite a carryover in that fund. PEPO, we have some carryover there, but you can see that we did spend more than our revenues were, but there's still carryover there, and this does not reflect that. You will see those reports coming along here as we do the CAR and so forth. Debt service, that shows an over expenditure, but that was a mistake on my part. It has to do with the timing of one of the bond payments. So that's really not a concern there, it's just a timing issue. And then the other one that's pretty important is the school nutrition fund. And you can see there that we finished the year in pretty good shape. About $17,600 more than what our expenses were. So, a couple concerns there, primarily general fund, activity fund. You have to kind of keep an eye on those, and I was glad to see the nutrition fund finish where it did, so.
That struggled previous year.
Yeah, actually it goes back to when we hired Karen, and she kind of started turning it around, and now Sarah has continued that. And it, by having a healthy nutrition fund, it really enables you to do some things. I wouldn't recommend going out this week, but maybe next week if you want to look at the freezer and cooler is in at Fairview, and boy, that is going to look nice, especially when we get the new shelving in there. It's not hooked up to electricity yet. That will be done on Wednesday. And then there's a new freezer, replaced the existing one at middle school, and same way, that'll be wired up on Wednesday and turned on, and they're very, very nice. Great additions to the school. So got
question on the activity fund.
Yep.
How do they pay to get out of the red? How do you get
Well,
out of the red?
there's a couple of things there. You know, in that fund, you have the opportunity to increase revenues.
Right.
Either they're gonna have to do more fundraising or something, maybe more funds from Booster Club, those types of groups. And then obviously the other option is to reduce their expenditures.
So they have a carryover balance?
They do, but it's dropping pretty rapidly.
Yeah, because we've been negative more.
Yeah, we've been about this negative 3 years in a row. So,
Each little separate place have their own, so
Yep.
somebody is using more than some other.
yeah, and that's always an issue with activity fund. You've got your revenue sports, like football, basketball, but you have also a lot of things that are either non-revenue or don't support themselves. You know, soccer, actually baseball, softball has a tough time supporting themselves. But then you have golf, swimming, those types of activities that at the end of the year, we have to take money from some of those other activities to help fund the ones that don't generate any revenue. So, we do have some reserves, but, yeah, we're using them up.
In another year, you're probably gonna have to looking at increasing your activity fee. The yearly activity fee, it's still pretty cheap. And we've raised it over time, but we haven't raised it recently.
Because you can't shift money into that fund.
No.
No. No.
Well, the other thing.
But I think we need to also look at the expenditure side of the equation. And
Are we still charging
Using
them for
less.
fuel?
I
yeah.
think so. Last I knew we were 10.
That's something we need to look at. Down the road. 'Cause there, with what we've all accomplished with all the ISL and everything, I mean, we should be maybe easing up on that.
I think that comes from Booster Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So that's not part of that figure.
No, that's not gonna,
It's not far. This, the prom activities, do they ever go south or do they always,
Prom?
proms and all that, they go swish and swish out of there, don't they? Don't they go in and out of there?
Crash and burn.
Yeah. They don't ever, are they deficiting?
You want me to tell you my school reform movement?
we wanna leave yet before.
I just asked for the,
I'd have to look at prom. I don't think prom is one that is a huge problem. You know, all the after prom stuff is separate. That's really
That's
doesn't run
different,
through
yeah,
here.
that's not school deal.
So that's where more of your big expenditures are. But,
Were you thinking of canceling?
No.
Get that one
I'm
off.
certainly not gonna say that with the press. I've always said, you know what, you wanna raise achievement in schools across Iowa? Get rid of prom, get rid of homecoming. Don't print that. Yeah, I think we, like I said, I think we have to look at both sides of the equation. I think we can look at the revenue side. And you know, there's a lot of, people just don't go to activities the way they used to go to activities.
Well, we're getting more to go to.
Yeah, you know,
A lot.
and
There's just a lot more to go
we got
to.
a lot of activities, like Gary said, that are non-revenue producing activities. That's just the way they are.
I mean, that's in college too.
You know, I mean,
It's no
it's-
different.
Yeah.
It's no secret.
But
Do they have to pay a fee to play?
can't.
Can't charge them. We did 1 year and we refunded the money for
He
something.
went to court on that. They lost.
They refunded the money.
Pay in Arizona.
Yeah.
So what about like golf and the green fees and stuff? That's what we pay?
The golf courses, both golf courses in town, and in fact, I think including Breda, in the district, treat us very, very well. And I think we might pay one member for municipal. I'm not 100% sure of that. I'd have to check with Keith. I don't know if we pay anything out of the club.
No,
And I don't think we pay anything in break.
we're treated very fair in our community for all activities. and-
Well, in turn though, we helped them out with their clubhouse too.
Right, and that's why we did that. That was part of our payback. We donated.
Right.
Well,
And-
you know, a lot of people don't realize is we don't pay anything to use baseball.
Yeah, that's another one. That's a big item.
City owned, that's not schools.
Or the swimming, or the tennis. Don't pay for either one.
Swimming, we do. We pay for the rec center to have a lifeguard on it, but pay rent.
Probably pretty minimal.
Yeah, it's not very expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than trying to have your own swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Operate
absolutely.
one, I'll tell you
Absolutely.
that much.
No, we're very blessed in this community for what they are. We get it, so.
Harold wanted to sell us a baseball stadium for $1.
Oh, yeah, that's been for sale, yeah. Okay, well, that's something we'll, Gary, will keep an eye on and, to move forward. Like when it comes to uniforms for different, groups, is that something the Booster Club buys all those, or do they come out of a general fund?
I would say a lot of that money comes from boosters.
I don't know, Gary.
Some of it, look, I won't say a lot. I'd
They
have
buy
to
a
look
lot of,
into
the
it.
Booster Club buys a lot of equipment for the activity. And I mean, a boatload.
Yeah, that's pretty good support.
It's,
I think uniforms come out of, used to be.
Not for everything, I don't think.
You know,
So,
that's
a lot of uniforms are bought out of the activity fund.
That's one thing you could look.
Well, the
into.
protective
That's
equipment.
not for.
No,
That's general
that's
fund.
general.
That's general.
But I think, well, I'll have to look into it more.
That's something to look into.
Yeah.
That's pretty,
But they've been good, like band uniforms, that's
Oh,
a
absolutely.
huge expense, and there's a lot of help with that.
yeah, we got a great booster club that
Yeah,
really helps
thank
out. so,
goodness.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, so they do a good job for us.
What's our next paper?
FY15 sales tax fund. 15 and 16 are on the same paper, and this is kind of on a cash basis. You know, we looked like we carried over 1.8 million. A lot of that's just timing, but then you turn the page and you go into shock when you see the balance. But keep in mind, with that 880,000 there, the bottom line is all of the bond payments are out of there for this coming fiscal for FY16. And so both the revenue bonds and the general obligation bond are all subtracted from that number. So, yeah. I showed them on the expense side. Correct. I show them over there on the expense side just because I like to know where we are, and we have those obligations, and so that's taken off the bottom line. It certainly doesn't look that way in the bank account by any stretch of the imagination, but as we planned,
Gary, middle school paid off.
We'll be,
will be in May.
yeah, this year.
That's the 87,625 and the 81,350.
So you're saying you got,
They're off, but they're not off.
you're saying you got
That's
80
2015.
to operate, everything else? but-
Well,
We're
but-
already past that.
Plus this revenue.
no, on the other side,
Plus this revenue.
we don't have it, we're not showing any revenue.
Right.
Right.
But that's,
So there's another million, 1.4 million that's gonna come in
Yeah.
this fiscal year. But we don't put it on here until we receive it. But I wanted to show the expenditures, because we know what they are.
right, so far.
Right. So, Gary and I just talked the other day, and it probably doesn't save us enough money to mess with this, but I mean, we would have the money right now to pay that fall payment, which is due November 1st, to pay off those bonds, the general obligation bonds. So we have the cash to do that. Because we didn't levy any cash in debt service to do that. And so, but that's where we are there. So, and again, keep in mind, there's no revenue on here yet. And so, as revenue comes in, obviously that brings up the balance. Physical plant and equipment levy, as Gary said there, we did end up spending more than we took in this past year, but we did have a healthy carryover. Our carryover wasn't as much going into 16 as it was going into 15. But it's still doing quite well. We'll receive about $150,000 this fall, and a little over $150,000 in the spring again when taxes are due. So we'll get some in September and October and a little bit in November. And so pick up you approved tonight will come out a couple. Then you just this is probably almost last. I know that the $25 bill that was on the general fund bill list tonight, the late one isn't included in here. So we'll give you one more report of the expenses, FY15 expenses compared to the budget you published for FY15. But that won't change a whole lot. In fact, I think the general fund will probably be the only one that changes. Unless there's any late bills that come in, but anything now, Gary, probably goes forward.
Yeah. Some of the revenues may not.
Right.
But, yeah, most expenses will go forward.
As we move forward, we'll have more, July, August, you don't see much revenue. Very little, in fact, comes through more on the federal side.